Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. Super excited to pretend that the other day when we tried to do this, it didn't happen. I'm very thankful to have Charles Mattocks and Nina O'Neill on the show. We have a lot to talk about: 8 days TV, health, life journey, cancer, diabetes, you name it. We're going to talk about it today with these amazing director, producer, visionaries, creative people. I think I'm using good terms today. I'm feeling it.
The other day, I did.
So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks for having us back over here.
All right. So let's tell us a little bit about you. So
we'll start or wine.
I'm drinking wine, babe.
I have White Claw.
Everybody's drinking the White Claw these days.
All right, Charles, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and people want to get to know the Charles Mattocks that maybe we don't know.
Definitely. Thanks so much for having us. Yeah, I think how I got here right now started off in music. From music, went to film and television. From film and television, did this whole little stint as a celebrity chef. And, after I moved out of Los Angeles and was raising my son as a single dad. And then from my diagnosis of diabetes, kind of bumped into Nina at some kind of diabetes convention out in Orlando. And we really had a lot in common. She was working for a company in diabetes, and I had this whole mission of doing big things in the diabetes space. And she believed in the dream and said, "Hey, let's rock and roll." And that has taken us from creating documentaries on diabetes to RV tours for diabetes. We created the first ever diabetic RV testing unit. That led to creating television shows, the first ever diabetes docu-reality series that aired on Discovery called Reverse. And then from there, now we have a beautiful show that's airing right now on the WGN network called 8 Days, which is based on a cancer docu-reality series based on 5 people living with cancer. So, in between all of that, we've had book sauces and tours, and we've been very busy and very fortunate to stay busy and come full circle. And at the end of the day, I think we really have a passion for helping people. We want to leave something. I know I have a great passion, and I know Nina is very passionate about people and health and things like that. So
I feel honored to have such you guys are big stars.
No.
That's what it feels like, man. You look at your bios, and I never know what I'm getting into with the show. And so I just didn't do my research like normal. And then I did my research before this particular day's show, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot going on there. You guys are really making big headway and kind of forging through. The shows are doing phenomenal. You're already getting love on the TED Show pages. People obviously are watching. All right, so I want to take a deep dive into that, but first, I want to hear from Nina O'Neill. Nina, tell us about you.
Okay. Gosh, I started back in the day in radio. I owned a radio station here in Central Florida. So that kind of got me in the entertainment kind of arena. Like Charles said, I a company had bought my company, a big company that I owned in the diabetic arena. And I met Charles, and we started this journey first around the country and then around the world. I was talking about in our last podcast that it took us to India. I remember the day when there were over 1,000 people in line in India. They walked from all over Mumbai, even barefoot. There was a lady over 100 years old with no shoes on. They all carry their medical records in their hands because doctors don't keep it, and they don't have computer systems like we do. So we had a whole staff of doctors that worked for 13 hours straight, and they tested and treated. They not only tested, but more importantly, they treated and followed up with all of these people. And, I would give everything I own, everything I have, everything I am to do something like that and to continue doing things like that. You know, that's my passion, is saving lives and kind of changing this world in our own way. And I hope we've done that, you know.
I feel like you have certainly, I'm trying to figure out who's got the background. Let me try Nina first. I feel like you guys have certainly made a huge impact. If you read the reviews, if you look at the comments, if you look at the lives that you've touched, if you watch any of the videos, and obviously we've got Charles's website up there, but I will also tag, I think I tagged the Facebook page as well. Make sure I do that. It's really awe-inspiring, and somebody who's part of your second series, which is the cancer part, I am fascinated by what you guys. What was the impetus, Charles, for you to decide? All right, I've taken on diabetes. Now I want to take on cancer.
Oh, thanks, Ted. You know what? I think that reverse is a great template that can fit so many other conditions. Because what we do is we bring 5 people to a different part of the world. We like to choose exotic places because at times when you take somebody out of their element, you want to make sure that you take them somewhere where they can relax, feel good, eat some fresh food, meet some locals, see some water. Just take them out, give them a break from reality, right? And at times, let's say if we're pulling people from America, if we have a show that's based in Arizona, it's easy for them to run back home, right? But if they're in another part of the world, they're kind of stuck there per se, and they're going to have to figure it out. So the catalyst, my father passed away from cancer about 6 years ago, and it was something that literally just was here one day, gone the next. And then, of course, my uncle, who was a legendary singer, he passed away from cancer. So I always had that cancer thing in mind. I did look around at some other conditions because, once again, it's about taking 5 people and really changing who they are and giving them the tools that they need to live the best life that they can. It's not about reversing anything. It's not about introducing something that's going to just be some miracle drug or whatever like that. It's about hearing the stories, because each one of us are dealing with something, or we know someone who's dealing with something, or eventually we will be dealing with something. And
Right.
and to tell those stories behind the scenes, understanding what it's like to deal with a son or a daughter or a husband or a wife that's suffering from something, and you have to be that person's caregiver. Every day people living with pain. There are billions of people living in this world with pain issues. Who literally, I get emails and messages every day, man, with people who just they're ready to end it all because can you imagine? Just imagine, and I'll just say, just imagine what's that thing that's a hemorrhoid, right? I've never had one, but just imagine a hemorrhoid every day, right? Where you're just waking up to this thing day in and day out. Now, times 100 on some of the pain issues that people are dealing with every day. That one thing is just there with them, living with them. So what we wanted to do is kind of go into the worlds of those who are living with cancer and kind of tell their stories. And that was the whole inspiration behind what we're doing. And we want to we want to tackle other conditions. I would love to do a HIV one. I would love to do a sickle cell one. I would love to get back and do another diabetes one. So we're working away right now, trying to find the right partners and people to get behind what we're doing.
Nina, what was the, if I'm sure there were many, but what was some resilience is what comes to mind when you're talking about that, especially the people dealing with the pain all the time. What were some of the surprising moments for you when you were interviewing or talking to people or listening to their stories?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Nina.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we partnered up with a place in Mexico called Hope for Cancer. And Hope for Cancer is an alternative cancer treatment center that literally is curing stage 4 cancer in very short time. So I think that for me, it was really important that we kind of give everyone the knowledge and the education that there is an alternative treatment out there besides chemotherapy and radiation and the things that your oncologist here in the United States are going to only be able to provide to you. And, you know, it was 5 people, and like Charles said once, it really feels like they fell from God's hands into ours, and they really did. And most of them are, you know, they're all parents. So, you know, I could really relate on that level. You know, Kate has stage 4 cancer and a little 3-year-old girl that she's a single mother to. You know, as a single mother myself, I can't even imagine getting that type of a devastating diagnosis. I mean, stage 4, all throughout her body. I'm talking her liver, her shoulders, her lungs, her everywhere. Here in the States, it's pretty much a death sentence. I hate to say it, but it really is. Because the chemotherapy is going to probably kill you before the cancer does in a lot of cases. You know, I hate to be so blunt, but if I hadn't seen it firsthand, then I wouldn't even know that this alternate exists. And, you know, I have chills right now. I literally could cry because it's just so important that even if people choose, like many of the people in our show, they're on their second bout with cancer. So the first bout, they went the traditional route. They listened to their oncologist. Their cancer came back. It may have gone away for a little while, and they were so, so sick. They didn't get that when they went to Hope for Cancer. Some of the therapies that they use, there's one, Charles, you may remember the name of it. Well, one is just shockwave therapy that goes in and softens the tumors so that the treatments can actually go in and do what they're supposed to do, so they can penetrate. Just simple things.
Do we not have that here? Was that surprising to find out that we didn't have that? Or if we do, it's not as readily available?
You might be able to answer that better, Charles.
Yeah, I think there is certain treatments that they do here that they do there, and don't get me wrong, you know, I mean, for some people, radiation and chemotherapy has worked and has saved their lives. But you know, alternative medicine, a lot of times people want to touch alternative medicine because they don't want the either the chemo, the radiation, or they don't want the surgery, right? Because you know, you're dealing with some stuff, and I know other men who are dealing with some stuff may not want to go underneath that knife right away if that's not the first option, right? Because that, you know, going underneath the knife, let's say if you have either prostate or colon or whatever like that, you know, might take away your ability to perform, or you know, just
that's the number one concern, Charles.
Yeah, exactly. So
I gotta laugh about it. Come on, I have to. It's me we're talking about. So.
Exactly. So the thing is that, and also with the work that they do in Hope for Cancer, it can play along and go along with whatever treatment that you're currently doing, wherever that treatment may be, whether it's even chemo, radiate, whatever it may be. It works hand in hand, and is just an alternative to you know, forms of treatment. One of the young ladies on the show, Kate, you know, she had gone through all the chemo, and I think I don't know if she did chemo radiation, but I know she had gone through the whole the process, and the doctors gave her 6 months to live. Now, if she had gone through the process and she had 6 months to live, and you know, at that point you said, you know what, let's look at something else. You know, there's got to be something else. So I think the whole idea is to know that there are other alternatives, even if you're dealing with diabetes, right? I mean, if you walk into a doctor's office and they say, well, we got to put you on insulin, you're going to say, whoa, there's got to be something else that I could do. You know, I mean, doc, you know, I could probably lose maybe 40 pounds, right? Or I could change my diet, or I can, you know, start exercising, or whatever it is.
Which is what they did to you, which is exactly what they did to you, Charles.
Exactly. So you want to know that there's another option, and that the doctor, you know, hopefully can say, unfortunately, they're not going to say at times, go and do this, and this, because they're not nutritionists or dietitians or understand, doctors aren't trained in food, you know, culinary situations. So I think with that, having an alternative and a holistic form of treatment that treats not only your mental, physical, and spiritual, emotional is really what's key. And that's what I think. All around, what we're trying to do here is touch people in their minds, their hearts, their souls, and really move them and motivate them to live the best life that they can. Because this life is short, and we don't want to be plagued with conditions and diseases and have to be fighting, the doctors and going to get tests and dealing with all this craziness out here. When had we had just, I posted something on my Facebook yesterday, and I said, health-wise, what would you do differently if you could turn back the hands of time, right? And I know for me, it would be, man, I wish I knew what I knew now back in high school. I wouldn't have ate the pizza with a ton of salt on it when I was 18 years old.
Right.
I wouldn't have drank, ginger ale thinking that it was more healthy for me because it had ginger in it. I wouldn't have, done some of the things that I would have done. I would have made sure that when I was much skinnier, that I would have stayed skinnier, because you don't know how the body changes, and all of a sudden you start gaining weight. So, I mean, there are certain things that, we'd love to turn back the hand of time. So I think what we're trying to do at times with these shows is have us look in that mental, physical, spiritual mirror and say, hey, you know what? It's not too late. We can make the changes right now and live a good, healthy life. And I think
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I think that's part of what the passions that we have is really just trying to touch those and reach those people with some of the programming that we have.
I feel like every doctor and every doctor friend that I have has told me the positivity is, and really trying to make sure you stay as positive as possible is really important. And it sounds cliche and it sounds hokey, but I've talked to many friends who've survived, and I feel like that seems to be the number one thing that got them through. They were positive. They had their spirituality, their faith, whatever it is, and they just kept going and they stayed positive. I want to ask you, because a lot of people asked, I guess they went and watched the show after I tagged it the first time.
Nice.
Great, thank you.
So but their biggest question, of course, which I think would be anybody's big question, what about the follow-up? How are people doing? Are you in touch with them? How are they feeling? What are their thought processes? I think people want to know, just like when you watch, if you're a New York Housewives person or a Housewives of whatever, you want to see the reunion, right?
Yeah.
So people want to know, do you keep in touch? Do they follow up with you? Do they share their what they're going through? So if you can give us maybe an update, that would be great. If you're allowed. I don't know. Maybe that's part two.
Well, we do have, and actually somebody just hit me today, Emmanuel Kent. I don't know if he's watching right now, but the show is re-airing. The season of Reverse is re-airing in different locations across the country on PBS. So he hit me this morning saying he was watching it in Miami, because it's in PBS on Miami. And we do have a final wrap show where we go back a few months later to see how those people were doing. So, let's just say with the diabetes show, what we instilled in them allowed them to make the changes internally to themselves. That then allowed them to make the changes physically to themselves. So I would say, man, you probably had between the five of them, they probably lost well over 300 and something pounds. Jerome, who was a type 2 insulin dependent, because of his own doctor recommendation, came off of insulin. Margie changed and came off of some of her meds. The other young lady came off of all of her meds, a lot of her meds, lost weight, got out of that wheelchair, started a business. Unfortunately, you didn't see the first season, which is the diabetes one, where her husband actually came there and he showed up. He already had an amputation of one of his legs. You know who I'm talking about, Lisa and Roger. Nina. And he showed up, with cigarette in his mouth and he was
candy in his suitcase. He just wouldn't get with the program.
Yeah, he wasn't ready to change. So unfortunately, because of his issues with diabetes, he passed away not too long after. As far as 8 days, you'll be very surprised. I mean, Hope for Cancer does some great work, but that work goes in line with what the people and the patients are doing themselves, because each one of them has come to a serious, point in life where they're like, listen, it's either this or the other thing. So they've dug deep into changing their lives and have changed everything from the way they eat, from the way what they drink, their home remedies. They're a walking prescription of health. So it goes hand in hand with whatever treatment that you're on, because you might have treatment, Ted, and if you're still smoking and still drinking and still partying and still eating, let's say red meat and things like that, which is carcinogenic, it won't go hand in hand with whatever treatment that you get.
Right.
So you have to make a total change, and that's what they've done. So you'll see at the end of the show how they've all done, and
All right,
let's just say, for that 6 month diagnosis, I think that's been about 18 months now. She just bought a nice little beach house in Australia, and so she plans on being around here for her little child.
That's awesome. I think what you guys are doing, what I love about the programs is that you're not saying, like you said earlier, it's not a magic pill, right? You're not trying to say, do this and you're going to be cured and your whole life is going to be amazing. And you're giving them tools, you're helping them examine, which I think we all do, right? We all need to examine where we're at, especially if you're in the fight of your life or you're fighting cancer or fighting any disease. But I love the fact that you didn't come out and say, all right, if you go here, or listen, if you do just this is going to make all the difference in the world. Because I think there's way too many charlatans out there that do that kind of stuff. But you use the power of your creativity, both of you, to put out positive, real stuff that people can relate to, people can see themselves in, and help give them maybe some direction and some tools to help them. All right, so what's next, Nina, on the agenda? What are you guys working on right now?
We're working on the first daytime reality show for the plus size and curvy community. So we're so excited. It's called The Plus. It's going to be on the FYI network. Of course, everything's kind of at a standstill right now because, we're shut down. But landed some big sponsors. And yeah, we're looking forward to, 67% of America identifies as plus size and curvy, and they are the most underserved community. Really, they have been so far. So yeah, we're excited about that, Charles.
You guys are going to change that, aren't
you? Yeah, we're going to change that. Yeah, it's going to be a super fun show.
I have a question for both of you that I usually wrap the show up with. All guests are fascinated to see, all audience members are fascinated to see what you're personally doing to stay above the fray, to stay positive, to stay creative, to stay, you could be meditation. It could be, I don't know, whatever's in this pretty little jug. It could be whatever it is that you're doing outside of business. Can you share with them? And I'll start with you, Nina. Can you share with them what you're doing?
Well, unfortunately, I'm facing some surgery myself on the 19th. So I'm really, for me, I'm really having to try to stay positive, because the last thing I want to do is go into a hospital right now, or even go into a doctor's office. Right. So, yeah, I'm spending a lot of time outside. I'm really trying to take my walks, swim in my pool, just be outside. Being outside really seems to help my frame of mind. Before, I was hardly ever going outside. It's funny, and now my whole neighborhood, everyone's outside. So it's really nice to just kind of be around my neighbors, and luckily I have a beautiful home to kind of that's my sanctuary, and my kids. I just live for my kids, and that keeps me sane, and yeah.
Sure.
That's what I'm doing.
That's awesome. All right, how about you, Charles?
Oh man, I just been literally just working on a bunch of little fun projects. I started a little kids page for a YouTube page for my kids, and I'm opening up a candle company called Sabali Candles. So make sure you go there. Sabali Candles, Candles. Sabali means patience. So I've been doing that, man. I just eating right. I started the vegan thing probably about a month ago.
Good for you.
Exercising, working on, looking slim and trim, man, and just having a good time, to be honest with you. This time has been good for me, to be honest with you. It has been very good. And then working on the projects, which is a part of my passion, a part of my life. So it's not really work for me. But I always say I'm trying to get it out, not in. So hopefully, with some of these projects, I want to wrap these things up, man, and go get a retreat somewhere in the Cayman Islands, man. And
that's our goal. That's the end goal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys are both beautiful people inside and out. I love what you're doing. I love your sharing and your honesty and transparency. Thank you so much. You guys have
to check out. What are you doing? You didn't share what you're doing real quick.
What am I doing?
Yes.
I'm reading again. I'm reading a new whole bunch of books, like physically touching the book and reading. I'm reading one called The Go-Giver, which is excellent. Just trying to do that wind down stuff that I always put off.
Right.
And so and of course, having my family, most of my family here in the house with me has been wonderful. That family time that you never thought you'd have like it again.
Yeah.
It's been such a joy. So focusing on family has been amazing. So yeah, just really trying to take a deep dive and take a breath for once.
Yes.
Right.
We're going to be back at it before we know it, and wish we could go back to being quarantined again.
I know. All right. I love you both. You're amazing. Thank you so much, Nina O'Neill, Charles Mattocks, 8 Days TV. You guys take a look. You're going to be moved and inspired. Absolutely. I know it. All right. We'll see you. We did it, guys.
We did it. I love everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.